Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here. You are in the right place. And we are going to give people a couple minutes to join the parent webinar. Welcome, everyone. As you join us, we're giving everybody just a couple minutes to arrive, and we will get started with this US Rowing parent conversation. So thank you so much for being here. Excellent. We'll start in 1 minute here. Cool. We'll go ahead and get started here. My name is Jenny Trays. I'm the head of community here at US Rowing, and we're really excited to put on this parent webinar. It's the first one that we've had in the last 3.5 years that I've been here, and we're eager to get to know our parents more and serve you more. So we know it's an incredibly busy time of year with the start of school and start of the rowing season. 3 out of the 4 panelists tonight are parents, and we're all rowers. I just put my 2 kids to bed, so I'm really excited to be here. To get us started, we'll kick off with a short video from my former organization, Row New York. And it's always a go-to video for me because it's really short. It kind of highlights the joy of rowing and some of the many benefits of being a part of the rowing community, the physical, the mental, and the social benefits, especially for young people. So we'll allow more people to trickle in and play this video before we get started. Oh no, Emily, we can't hear it. I think you have to unmute yourself.
Because I row, I have confidence, determination,
perseverance.
I know no limits. Because I row, I will achieve great things.
Because I row, I'm strong.
I have muscles. I'm mentally tough. I'm hungry all the time. Because I row, I know teamwork. I trust. I believe.
We are all here for one another.
Because I row, I laugh all the time. Because I row, I'm never alone. We are family.
Family.
Family. We are Row New York.
Awesome. Like I said, short and sweet. So whether your child is just getting started in rowing or they've been rowing for a couple years now, you know, or you'll know soon that the team is like family. They are so tight-knit, and I think that's very unique to rowing. We'll talk more about the unique qualities of rowing, but we're really thrilled that you're all here. Again, for those of you who just joined, my name is Jenny Trays. I'm head of community here at US Rowing. I've been here 3.5 years. I rowed for 4 years at Bucknell University and then worked for 10 years at Row New York. And I'm thrilled to be here with all of you and learn more how we can help support you as parents and really maximize your experience in rowing, your athlete's experience in rowing. Tonight's webinar is first and foremost about keeping your athletes safe in the sport, and then really just how we can make the most of your full experience, again, whether they row for a season or whether they're in it for a lifetime or you're in it for a lifetime. The other panelists with me are Chris Furlow, our Senior Director of Member Services. He oversees membership and learning and development teams at US Rowing. He works on the value that we can provide you and your athletes and your teams and your organizations and how we can help train and support your coaches. He is also a rowing parent. Emily Goldsmith, who also is in Florida with Chris Furlow, is our safeguarding associate at US Rowing. Emily thinks all day, every day about keeping your athletes safe and healthy and manages cases and questions that come through Safe Sport and beyond. And she is a lifelong coach. Margot Zalkind is our next panelist. She is our safety guru here at US Rowing and works on special projects for the organization. She works with safety. She works on our initiatives regarding parents and masters rowers and our Learn to Row programs. And she is a longtime competitive masters rower. So everyone on this call, and at the organization know how critical parents are to the experience of any child, but that is kind of elevated and even more important when it comes to student athletes and especially rowers who have really challenged themselves, who have ups and downs, and are really trying something new. I remember how lost my parents and I were when I walked onto the team at Bucknell. They still showed up to every race, but everything was new. And they learned and they caught up and they got up to speed. And my dad is now the rower of the family. So you never know where it's going to take you. And we're really thrilled that you're here. We're really eager to hear from you. So we are going to try to keep our piece relatively short to 30 minutes and then turn it over to you all to ask questions. Feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Tonight's agenda, we want to share some helpful resources. We want to talk a bit about rowing and the benefits of it, really focus on safeguarding and safety, and then talk about opportunities both for you and your young people. So I'm going to toss it over to Margot to get us started.
We've created some resources for you because rowing can have its own language, its own glossary, and you can be, as Jenny mentioned, at an event and not know what is happening, who's going by. So there's a brochure online, and Emily will give you the links to these. The first one is Step into Rowing, and it's all the things you need to know about what this sport consists of. And then there's an additional piece, which is more about the hardware. It's called Get a Grip. So you'll learn what's a 4, what's an 8. When somebody says, well, I'm rowing stroke, what does that mean? In addition, our website has a lot of information for you. So we'd love for you to look through these things that were created just for you to familiarize you with the sport. In addition, we've created a glossary of all the language. So if you're at a regatta and somebody says, heads up, you know what that means. It means watch out, you may be getting hit by a 60-foot long boat if you don't get out of the way. So please check these out. I think they'll be very helpful to you and they'll increase your comfort zone. The joys of rowing. I've been a rower for years, and there's so many metaphors for this sport about teamwork. Emily and I were joking the other day that there's almost not an office you don't walk into that doesn't have an 8 and it says teamwork, and it's supposed to inspire people to work together. And rowing is really the ultimate row together sport, work together sport, especially in the larger boats. The joy that this sport has given me for many, many years is I formed a community, a national community that is a support system for me, for information, for camaraderie. And as people start to row in high school, those bonds can last them for decades. There are so many people at the rowing clubs I've been at, and they say, oh yeah, here's George. We started out together at Washington and Liberty High School together. And these guys are in their 50s and they're friends. The other thing that we talk about a lot is that this sport just also gives you confidence because you can do this. And so it gives you a confidence that trickles down into every other aspect of your life. Oh, the last thing is it is a sport for life because it's low impact. You're not running and pounding your knees. So a lot of people, because of that, stay with it for life.
Thank you, Margot. That's great. We're gonna hop right into safeguarding and safety. So when you guys are learning about the sport, you're gonna have a ton of questions. And a lot of the questions that I get are like, what's the coach's job? What's my athlete's job? What's my job? And so your coaches are responsible for planning practice, regatta days. They account for the whole team, whether that's going to be 2 kids or 100 kids. They account for the weather and then the team's progress as athletes. Your athlete's job is to abide by US Rowing's Code of Conduct, the club's Code of Conduct, and help the team and the coach have a great practice or regatta day, whatever that looks like. And then your responsibilities as a parent, and we'll get into like volunteering and what you can do extra. But right now, it's really just to come curious and ask your athlete about their experiences at the boathouse, on land, and out on the water, and just learn a little bit more about the sport. So you can ask questions.
So I'll talk a little bit about coaches and the US Rowing certification for coaches. So as you've probably experienced already, even if you've just begun this semester, the coach is the key person at any team, school, or club in making your experience excellent and your children's experience excellent. Or on the contrary, having it be a poor experience and you leave the sport relatively quickly and more frustrated than when you arrived. So one of the things that US Rowing does, because we don't control your day-to-day experience at your school or your club, is that we try to make sure that all the coaches have at least a minimum standard of excellence. So all year round, US Rowing member organizations are required to have their coaches US Rowing level 1 certified at a minimum, and many go beyond to level 2 or level 3 and so forth. Beyond knowing the key aspects of safety, proper rowing technique, how to reduce the chance of injuries and burnout, and how to have a great practice, it also ensures that coaches have completed safe sport training, which you'll learn about in a moment. What safeguarding is all about, have a current USOPC approved background check to make sure that they aren't a criminal and have just joined as a coach to go undercover, have current CPR, AED training and first aid training, and where required, have taken boater safety training. And coaches will make your experience so much better the more they're trained, and we try to make this happen as easily as possible. Margot?
Yeah. Regarding safety, the parent's role is a delicate one. It's a balance because ideally your coach is someone who you respect and who all the athletes should be listening to. But there are times perhaps that the coach is busy, distracted, helping someone. If you're a parent and you're nearby, you may want to function as a very gentle watchdog. We encourage parents to have the respect for the coach and for the program, and to, if you are at a practice or nearby and you do see something, like perhaps you're facing one direction and you see lightning or you hear thunder, defer to the coach, but also be a watchdog. So if you do see something or hear something that you think should be brought to attention, go ahead and do that if you think you're going to be protecting everyone. But again, you don't want to be intrusive, but you also do want to have a responsible role. We ask coaches to keep an eye on conditions. Is there fog rolling in? Is there lightning and thunder? Is it getting to be high wind? All of those things affect the safety of a crew, but most of the time, ideally, your coach is on it and is watching out for anything that could be untoward.
That's
Emily,
great. Thank you, Margot.
sure.
I love when Margot gets into her safety stuff. We are going to talk quickly about safeguarding. And so when Margot and I are talking, you hear these two phrases, safety and safeguarding. Safety is encompassed in safeguarding, and safeguarding is the range of measures that US Rowing uses to promote and protect the welfare of all participants. So that means you, your children, our coaches, and this includes their physical and psychological well-being. And when we are able to make rowing and boathouses a safe place, we're able to then make those programs go fast. We have a couple of partners in our safeguarding mission. And so that's going to be We Ride Together. They work with me on our safeguarding policies. They work with us on signage, which you might see around a youth regional event or youth nationals when you get to attend those. And they're also a great resource for you if you're like, I don't want to talk to Emily again. And then the US Center for Safe Sport, I would consider them a partner, but we are required to follow their policies and procedures by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And what they do is they will set the safe sport policy, and then US Rowing can kind of edit it to fit what our members really need. And then they will also take incident reports anonymously, and then that way incident reports aren't coming directly to US Rowing, and they'll determine what to do with those when they receive them.
As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the relationships in a young person's life are formed in high school or in college, and they can last your whole lifetime. So that's part of the wonderfulness of this sport. The other part is that this networking that they start to build goes beyond their own high school. You meet other kids at a regatta, or you meet another coach, or you meet a coxswain, and this person becomes a friend, and this friend may become a mentor. And so the foundations are extraordinary. As I mentioned, there are guys in their 70s and 80s and say, oh yeah, we were together in high school. The other thing is that these networks that they are building can extend beyond just sport. They can become somebody you contact for getting into college. I know you coach at this college. Is this a good fit for me? Or eventually with a job. You have a buddy who becomes somebody else in a company, and you go, hey, Frank, got any jobs for me? And so this networking and support can last your whole life. And rowing in college?
Thanks, Margot.
Yeah.
So I'll just echo what Margot said. My son, my youngest child, currently rows at Syracuse University. And his freshman year, the coach put all the freshmen on the same floor of a dormitory. So they were about 90% of the people on that floor because it was a relatively small dormitory. He decided never to do that again because they were too closely bonded. And to give you examples, one of his teammates is going to be coming down here over Christmas break and staying with us for pretty close to a month before they go to winter training over on the east coast of Florida. So they are building bonds for a lifetime in many cases. One of the great benefits of membership in US Rowing is that you can track some of your key metrics in terms of performance and your physical stature in the athlete profile in the member portal. what you can also do is opt in then to transfer that data automatically into the NCSA college recruiting portal. So this is basically a company and a website and a partner of US Rowing that does college recruiting across many sports, including rowing. And it's free to create a profile. They will reach out to you and obviously try to get you into a paid service, but that's optional. And you can reach out to coaches, connect with coaches. They can see your data and potentially um, talk with you and bring you into college recruiting. Another benefit that we have coming soon is a course on what we call the Launch, which is our learning platform. And your kids as members, or you, if you're a support member as an individual, or you can log in on your kid's account, can go in there. And we're building out a college recruiting course. So it's relatively quick, talks about all the things that you should be considering when attending a college or university if you're considering rowing there. And we worked with a lot of collegiate coaches at the professional organization for both men's and women's coaching in college, and with the club programs as well to build that course. So coming soon, and a great member benefit.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. Kind of coming off of what Chris was saying with NCSA and uploading your data with them, US Rowing and being a member of US Rowing offers your athletes pathways to the national team. And so that can look like many different things, especially depending on their age. Right now, if your athlete is a sixth grader and they just love rowing so much, that's awesome. Keep them loving rowing. And then as soon as they start erg testing, you can go into the US Rowing membership portal, and there's a tab that says athlete information. You'll click on that, and then you can upload their erg scores, their height, their weight to different exams. And that's actually how we see their progress as an athlete as US Rowing. And that's what our coaches will look at when they're trying to invite kids to a national team selection camp, or if they're trying to get invited to one of our other selection development camps. With that, we also offer one-day ID camps, mostly for high school students. We do see some middle school students at those. And those are one day in the winter, and more information will come out, and you'll be able to get that through email and off of our website. When we're talking about those camps and pathways to the national team, US Rowing offers scholarships through United We Row. I've seen athletes benefit from these scholarships. They're need-based, and the invite to some of our camps is performance-based. And so that's definitely a great opportunity that you can take advantage of if your athlete is looking to attend a camp or get selected for a national team. I'll hop right into opportunities for parents. When it comes to you guys, there are so many opportunities for you to get involved with your program, whether it is a board-based program. So you might have a parent-run board that you can join. You can volunteer day to day. I know at my club, we have a crossing guard position to make sure that the kids get across the street safely. You can chaperone at regattas so that the kids aren't running around the hotel room like crazies. You can carpool other athletes. Helping at regattas can look like many different things. And that could be driving a launch, so driving a boat and chasing races, following the athletes' races, being the person who's holding the boat at the start, and being a stake boat holder. Some of these jobs, like driving a boat, you might need a boater's license for. Or if you wanted to drive the boat trailer to a regatta for the team, you might need to learn how to drive the trailer. So definitely get engaged with your program and see how you can be of help. It can be anything from being a crossing guard to driving a boat on a race day. And that's something that's super awesome. The clubs really rely on you guys for that support so that the coaches can focus on developing your athletes. And it is really special when you see like 50 parents running a regatta, and maybe 3 months ago they didn't know about rowing.
Just to add to that, I went up to meet with Chris Furlow at a race up in New Hampshire. I live in New England. And I was so struck by the camaraderie, by the community of the crew parents from Syracuse. They all helped each other. They all brought food. They had snacks. They talked about their lives. They compared notes with their kids. And so it's one of the blessings of this sport is the community. And to that point, we talked too about rowing yourself or being involved in some way in the sport. And a lot of parents do become rowers. You can learn through your own organization. Every June, we host Learn to Row Day. So you can go to a local club near you and learn how to do the sport. There's events at a lot of regattas that are parent-child events. And a lot of people do that with their son or daughter. And it's just totally separate from the rest of the regatta, but part of it. And it's great fun. It's a great way to bond with your child. So we encourage that. And so you may consider learning to row yourself. Emily, coaching, you want to, no, Chris, you want to talk about coaching, I think.
Thanks, Margot.
Sorry.
And I will caution all of you that the path starting with a simple volunteer role can take you very far in the sport. That's how I began. You know, with our kids, our oldest started in 7th grade, and then we were at our local club probably between the two kids for about a decade, 5 years of which I was on the board as a volunteer parent in various roles, including president, and all thanks to my wife for volunteering me. And then next thing you know, here I am at US Rowing. So you never know where volunteering will take you. But on the coaching front, a lot of times, especially at small organizations, there's a need for additional coaches or just people willing to be out in a boat in a safety launch to make sure that kids are safe. These are opportunities that are viable paths forward as you get more familiar with the sport of rowing. We have a level 0 coach certification. It's not really a certification, but a coach training course to give you some of the basics, and it gives you the vocabulary so that if you do want to get certified by doing the level 1 course, you'll know all the vocabulary that you need to succeed in that course. And there are many coaches who began as parents and lasted in the sport much longer even than their children did, because they're still coaching 20 or 30 years later while their kids stopped rowing at some point along the way after high school or after college. Emily?
Thanks, Chris. And I will say the same about becoming a referee. I have friends who I rode with whose parents became referees and have been in the rowing community now longer than their athletes. If you'd like to become a referee, there is information on our website. We offer the education, and you actually get to shadow other referees at regattas. So it's a great way to see your athletes race from a different perspective when that opportunity comes, and to be a part of, again, being at the regatta, making it happen. I am a referee, and that's like my secret. And I think it's awesome. It's super fun to be out there and to kind of see it from that perspective.
In terms of other steps that you can take, continue learning. We mentioned the launch. There is a ton up there. Chris and Margot have worked really hard to get many courses and resources available on our learning management system, from fundraising to running a board to all of our coaching certifications. There are many free courses up there, and there are some paid. We have a free conference coming up, a virtual conference called the United We Row Summit, and I'll drop that link in here. If you're interested in making rowing a sport for all and getting your boathouse more accessible and more welcoming, I encourage you to come to that. And as the year rolls along, we'll have more opportunities for in-person and virtual engagement. There's always the opportunity also to join the U.S. Rowing Board of Directors if you really catch the rowing bug and want to be a leader on strategy and setting kind of the path for the organization. There's the board, and then only 3 years old at this point is the U.S. Rowing Foundation Board, which is the fundraising branch of the organization as well. That's about 30 or 35 members currently. And they fundraise for the national team to allow our athletes to continue their careers at the highest levels, and for other initiatives across the organization, whether it's our inclusion initiatives like United We Row or safeguarding. So we encourage you to get involved in all of those ways. Yeah, and we wanted to also just highlight US Rowing is the national governing body of the sport. That means we were appointed by the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee to kind of steward the sport and grow the sport and also take care of the national team. So our national team is currently in Shanghai. They will compete at the World Championships next week, starting Sunday. So we'll be rooting for them over here, and we are looking to grow the grassroots rowing into other disciplines like indoor rowing and coastal rowing. So with the 2028 Olympic Games and Paralympic Games coming up in LA, it's a really exciting time for rowing, and we're really just so glad that you came tonight. And please feel free to reach out to any of us. We'll drop our emails in the chat, but you can always reach out to members@usrowing.org to follow up on any of this, whether it's safety or safeguarding, education, courses, getting involved in regattas, anything that you can think of. We truly want to hear from parents on how we can best support you and your organizations, and of course your athletes too. So that is all we had planned, and we want to open it up to Q&A if people still have questions. Anyone want to drop any questions in the Q&A? One thing that came through during registration was a few parents asked about rowing or nutrition resources. And so we have some of those resources, but not compiled in a neat and clean way. We do have a plan to have a course on the launch around nutrition, and we also will get some of those resources together and send that in a follow-up. But I see some questions coming through.
Yeah, I can take the first one about collegiate rowing. So collegiate rowing is really interesting in the sense that it's the oldest intercollegiate sport. Started in the mid 1800s, going back before football, baseball, basketball, before some of those sports were even invented. There was intercollegiate competition. So on the men's side, it's primarily governed either by the IRA, the Intercollegiate Rowing Association, which is mostly Division I, but they also have Division 2 or 3, I think, right now. And then they also govern lightweight men's rowing, which are for men at 150 pounds and under, or in college, 160 pounds for a lot of it. They also govern lightweight women's rowing, and there's the club side as well, which is not part of the IRA, but is part of ACRA, the American Collegiate Rowing Association. So many colleges have it as a club sport. So like at University of Florida here where I am, you can compete as a club team. And I know some of the people have won national championships at the club national championships competition for college from University of Florida. And they compete at a high level there, although they're mostly self-funded, and they pretty much get a small amount of money from the student government. Then on the women's side, you've got the club rowing as well in many places. You've got the lightweight rowing for women that's governed by the IRA. And then you've got the NCAA programs, which are Division One primarily. And these have been around for about 20 years or so now. And there are actually many more opportunities for women rowers in college at this point than there are for men, just because of Title IX and the fact that a lot of colleges are adding women's rowing to counteract the scholarships of men's football, for example. So lots of opportunities there, from just entry level, you've never rowed and you can walk on, all the way up to you're coming out of the U19 national team system, and you're going right in at a high level. So once we get that course up on the launch, do recommend that you check that out, because all those coach organizations plus APRA helped create the content for that, and gave recommendations about how often to reach out to coaches, how to start conversations, what to look for at a college or university, things about official visits, all kinds of great information there.
Awesome. There were a couple other, the question is rowing across the nation or just in certain areas for college? And I can't think of the number of college programs off the top of my head, but it is absolutely across the country. Does anyone on this call know number of?
Yeah, I don't remember the number of programs, but it goes East Coast to West Coast. The South is becoming a hotbed, especially for women's rowing. There were not programs at many Southeastern Conference schools at kind of the varsity level, probably 10 years ago. And now they're some of the strongest programs out there. Places that didn't have rowing until recently, like University of Miami as well here in Florida, but Texas, UC Berkeley, University of Washington, all very strong programs, Stanford on the women's side. And in terms of how it can help in the admissions process, it really depends on the school. So I can give you examples. If you want to go to MIT, it doesn't matter how fast you are in a boat. You better be able to get in based on your grades, your SAT scores, and whatever else they're looking for. Because I've had a friend who had two of his athletes be the number one and number three recruits for a year, and wrote letters of support, and they got a thanks for applying. You didn't get in. At the same time, it really depends on the program. In some places, it can help a lot. The coach has a lot of influence. And this is a good question to ask when your kids are talking with the coaches, is how much influence do they have, and how much are they willing to support the application process? It's one of the great questions to ask. On the scholarship side, a lot more opportunities on the women's side than the men's side. So like my son, he is not on a scholarship. He was a recruited athlete. He gets treated like a recruited athlete, but the only discount on tuition that we received was based on financial need, and then a small academic stipend or scholarship as well. But at the same time, I know some of his friends who rowed who are going to women's programs got full rides, and they're not paying for college at all.
And the
So
reason, just to jump in, the reason for that is Title IX. The money spent, obviously we know the money spent on women sport needs to be the same as men's. And so women's rowing typically or traditionally at many schools offsets the money spent on football programs or basketball programs that are kind of big expenses for universities and colleges. This
Yeah,
is
for
one I
sure.
think you'll be excited about, Chris. What should a high school rower be doing for each year of school to prepare to row in college? My short answer is to be having fun, but I'll let you talk about the ADM.
Yeah, that's a great transition. So ADM is the American Development Model, which ironically we pretty much stole from Canada and rebranded. But it looks at long-term athlete development and where athletes should be in terms of training load and uh, performance outcomes. And if you click on the launch in the left-hand menu of either your membership when you're in the member portal or your child's membership landing page and go into the launch, there's a short, about 7 or 8 minute course on the American Development Model. And one of the great things in there is a table that shows the amount of training volume and kind of expected erg scores and things like that by age if you're on a track to the Olympic team as a senior. So, our national team coach, Josie Verdonschot, if I said it right, he's Dutch. He says nobody can say his name correctly, so apologies, Josie. He gave us the table for high school through college, and then we kind of extrapolated it and ran it by our coaches for middle school as well. But one of the key things to take away is that they don't want to see kids training like a college athlete when they're in ninth grade, because even if their erg scores might improve, which is what, particularly on the men's side, a lot of college coaches look at um, when evaluating whether to offer kids entrance to the team. If you're training twice as much as you should be when you're 14, you're going to be burnt out, and coaches know that you'll be burnt out by the time you get to college. And the same goes for the national team pathway. Make sure you're training at the appropriate load so that you don't get injured, you don't get burnt out, and you're having fun the whole way, and you just progress a little bit each year in terms of that. There are rules about engagement with college coaches, and so males and females have slightly different rules because they're governed by IRA versus NCAA. Women can typically talk to coaches full on from after their sophomore years, and guys typically can't do that till after their junior years. They can email and coaches can respond, but coaches can't initiate contact until certain grade. So don't feel bad if coaches don't necessarily reach out to you, even if your child is a phenom and national team member, if they're in like 10th grade, because there are rules that prevent that. But you can initiate contact at any time and they can respond.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Chris. Looks like Margot answered the joys and benefits of rowing. Yeah, I would just emphasize that rowing is really hard, first of all. And so there's no joy in like how difficult and painful it is, but then you just rely on each other in a way that you don't in other sports. Like once you push off the dock, you're stuck in that boat and you're rowing together. Does anyone else want to jump in on the
Yeah, I am totally happy to. I was thinking about this while Chris was talking, so I'm sorry, Chris, but comparing it to other sports is really challenging because there's quite literally nothing like it. I would almost compare it to synchronized swimming or dancing, except it's an endurance version of that, where the entire boat has to be moving together or else you're not going to go towards the finish line. And so when you are working with 3 or 8 other people to move a boat as one. That means like every piece of your body is moving at the same time as the person in front of you. The boat hits like the plane on the water. So the boat literally lifts up out of the water and you can hear the trickle of the water under the boat. And that's just something that's super special that I haven't been able to find anywhere else, even in other endurance sports like running or cycling. That piece of like teamwork is there. And when you find that feeling, it's just a really great feeling. Could I talk a little bit about coxing, Jenny?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, awesome. Someone asked, my ninth grade son is a coxswain. He doesn't have an ERG score. How do colleges look at that? How would he get into a national summer program? So when it comes to coxswains, definitely working with the coach to listen to the coxswains recordings. That's going to be the key piece. When they are applying to our national camps over the summer, we have a form. They submit their height, their weight, information about them, and then a coxswain recording. And so that looks like, how is the coxswain performing during practice out on the water? What are they telling their crews? And then when they are racing, what does it sound like? How is the crew responding? And then race results are really helpful as well, saying I was in this boat for this race and we got this place. Here's my recording. So it's definitely, instead of ERG scores, think coxswain recordings.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add to that too. So many programs are desperate for coxswains. And so if they find a good one, this person is a treasure to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're the mini coach.
And I will add that we do have a Cox athlete course that's available. It is fee-based. We are lowering the price, but it's still $150. But it's designed and written by Mary Whipple, a three-time Olympic cox. And she also did the partner course for coaches on how to coach coxswains. So that is available for coxswain development, as well as, anything that's available for athlete development on the rowing side. The the question about how about the boys rower challenge to enter the good college? So I can talk to this. I already spoke about like MIT. Your Ivies, particularly the ones who are competing for national championships each year on the men's side, you still need the academic credentials. So the other piece is unless you are, and this is getting technical if you're a brand new parent, a sub 6 minute 2 kilometer erg test for a guy, you start to get under 6 minutes, the academics become slightly less important. But especially if you could go like down towards the low 550s, which is not easy. There are guys on our senior national team who are not at 550 on an erg probably. So getting there as an 18-year-old high school senior is really rare. But that will get you almost anywhere you want to go. The standard for most high-level programs is about a 620 for men. And if you're under 620, then you've got a good shot, again, depending on your academics. That will get you at least your foot in the door. I've got a friend who rowed at Harvard, and he was on the junior national team. He ended up, winning medals at world championships at U19 level and U23 level. Went to Harvard, but he said to get in, he had to be like in the 98th percentile on like standardized tests on the SAT or ACT kind of thing. So you can be a national teamer, and if you're, like barely getting C's, you're not going to get into those quote unquote good academic schools. But the other thing to remember is there are plenty of excellent rowing programs that aren't in the Ivy League or at MIT that you can have a great time at. You can get a great education, you can have a great amount of fun with the people on the team at most any school out there. And the key is to find the right fit for your athlete in terms of their academic goals. I mean, one of the first questions good coaches ask is, what do you want to major in? And they want to know that they can satisfy your future aspirations. Because you can go to a quote unquote good college, but if they have not the major that you're interested in, and then you might just have a really poor experience. So the key is matching what your interests are with what is offered at the college and keeping the focus. Honestly, most of us will never be national team athletes or Olympians.
That's what
So
I was gonna say. Yeah, that's shouldn't come as a surprise. That's like, such a small number of our membership. We have 76,000 members on an annual basis. The majority, and there's rowers beyond that that are not kind of registered with US Rowing. So the majority of people are not looking at that elite level, whether it's in college or beyond. And I think I would just say kind of follow your athlete's lead. They should be happy and healthy, and that is what we want to kind of center this all around. They might just want to be a recreational athlete, or they want to, you know, compete a bit, maybe a D3 school, maybe a D2 school, maybe they take a little break during college and do intramural soccer, but then they come back to it. The thing with rowing is that it can be a lifelong sport, and that's truly our goal, is to create rowers for life. Obviously, we need to support the national team athletes, but that's not the majority of us. There's a few more questions coming through. This one is about fundraising. It's such a good question. Could you please also talk about ideas for fundraising opportunities that clubs could employ? Our club is experiencing a rapid growth and would appreciate pointers how to fundraise to help support this growth, and what may have worked for other clubs. This is such a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can touch on that. We have two courses on fundraising in the launch. Both are free. So if you have access to the launch, they're aimed at clubs and club leaders, schools, school leaders, with the parent organizations. And they run through a step-by-step guide to about half a dozen, maybe a few more specific fundraising ideas, even going down to estimating what your dollar investment is and what your likely dollar return on investment is. So I completely recommend going into those. The classic fundraiser is an ergathon, where people do it in the winter and the kids row for 12 hours or 24 hours in shifts, not
Yeah,
each
not all.
one
Yeah.
rowing the whole time. You know,
Yeah.
they might row for 30 minutes or an hour each. But our club, one year we rowed to Southeast Regionals. So it was we're in Gainesville, Florida, and Southeast Regionals was in Gainesville, Georgia that year. So there was, 350 miles and convert to like 500 kilometers. And so the team of, you know, 25 or 30 kids took shifts until they rode 500 kilometers. And you get donations from lots of people. You can go to businesses who may want to support,
Yeah.
and there's a guide to that. Margot, did you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, there's the standard stuff like the bake sales and the car washes and stuff. But when you get creative and also visible, like Chris was saying, a lot of organizations will bring the ergs or the rowing machines to a public place, like right downtown. Put them, with permission, of course, and they'll put them out on the sidewalk on a busy Saturday. So you get the publicity of what you're doing, but also it increases donations. But as Chris was saying, we polled a lot of organizations to find out what they did. Do you do something at a holiday, and is it unusual? But particularly when kids are involved, people really want to be supportive. And so I think you'll find that once you start using some of these ideas, it will help and it will work.
Yeah,
Those are great. I would say also just general fundraising. Like, I think setting a goal and communicating that goal is really critical, whether it's $5,000 or $25,000.
Yes.
Getting the community behind that, and being explicit about that could help. Don't be afraid to ask. I feel like there's a lot of feelings around fundraising. Remember that you're inviting people to be part of something really exciting and joyful and all the things that we talked about tonight regarding rowing. And so don't be afraid to tell stories. And a big one is also expressing gratitude and saying thank you to donors who do support you. So hopefully,
Excellent.
I can do
Help
it again the next year.
I
Good
have
idea.
three just quick points I'd like to add and what has worked. And one of them is like Giving Tuesday. It happens around Thanksgiving. So those types of fundraising holidays that are a thing on Facebook and Instagram, I've seen that work in the past. Anything like a Chipotle or a Fresh Kitchen where your team is going to dinner after practice. There's also people from the community at dinner, and Chipotle or Fresh Kitchen is giving you a percentage of what they're earning that night. And then there is a digital platform. It's called Double Good, and it's super easy. The kids download an app, and they have to sell popcorn, and the popcorn gets delivered directly to the people who ordered it, and the program gets 50% of the sales. So those are my three examples that I've seen work in the past. And it's very different from when I had to walk around door to door and sell wreaths around Christmas, and then I had to go deliver the wreaths. But definitely reach out to other parents as well and see if any of them are interested in sponsoring maybe a regatta you host with their companies, and networking with them to see if they have any opportunities for you as well.
yeah.
I want to
Um,
get to the question about blisters. I'm gonna put in just a thought that I had, which is it will get better, but does anyone have like an actual remedy for blisters?
People do believe in a cream on their hands. I've never subscribed to that. It's really a building up of calluses. It's
Mhm.
also reminding the athlete to have a light grip, because often when we start rowing, we do the white knuckling because we're nervous. Other people are watching us, they're relying on us, the coach is watching us. And so you have the white knuckles, which makes the blisters worse. So if they can just relax their hand a little bit, not so much that they lose the oar, that does help. But almost everybody I know, you build up the calluses over some time. And
Mhm.
that's to me the only cure. There are people who wear gloves, like bike gloves. That helps a little bit. A lot of coaches don't like that because you're not really feeling the oar, is the belief. But a lot of people do it, particularly masters.
I remember showering in college with plastic bags on my hands because my blisters hurt so much, but it will get better.
And one more note from the safety side, and I'm so sorry, you
Yeah.
guys. Definitely do your best to keep them clean. And it stinks, like Jenny says, in the shower.
Yes.
But making sure that they're clean and, Margot, I'm sorry, but like as moist as possible.
Yeah.
And covered as much as they can be when they're rowing, whether that's gloves, which are becoming more socially acceptable, and I've seen that over the past couple of years, or rowers will just put straight like medical tape on their fingers to cover them, and that seems to work as well.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about taping hands. That's a really good call. So we have two more questions and then we're gonna wrap, but we do want to hear from you. So we'll follow up with an email with these resources, and then please keep asking questions and sharing how we can be helpful. One question here is it helpful to have your athlete initiate contact with a coach before waiting for their recruiting year?
So I think it depends kind of on the coach. Different coaches have different philosophies. If your athlete is super passionate about attending one or two schools and don't want to row anywhere else, absolutely have them reach out. The other key is make sure they're honest. They're not trying to hide anything. Coaches will notice if you don't put your ERG score in, because you're nervous that it's not fast enough. And that will be the first question that they ask you is why didn't you put your erg score in? So feel free to reach out ahead of time. Just know that the response you get will be somewhat relative to how soon they can actually talk to you. So they're not going to invest a lot of time in a freshman who is, 2 years away from actually being able to, do real recruiting with. They'll probably send a courtesy email and say, please keep me updated as you progress, and friendly things like that. And you shouldn't expect a lot more than that. But good to communicate. Yeah, Margot?
Well, I was gonna jump to the other question that just disappeared about online erg training.
Yeah, you can feel free to answer it. I also typed in a link to Concept 2's website, but go ahead, Margot. Whatever.
Yes, exactly that. Concept 2 does offer a lot of workouts, but the best thing to do is if an athlete is in a program, is ask the coach for guidance, because the coach is going to give you erg training, weights training, anything that is suitable for you and your program. If somebody just starts as a child, particularly going to Concept 2 or other, there's so many online and on YouTube and do this and do that, then you don't have a uniform training program. And one of the important things is to keep the athlete happy, as Emily said, but also injury-free. And so a good training program will do that, because if somebody doesn't know, they're loading it too heavy, they're working out too long, they're exhausting themselves. So ideally, the coach gives the workout program off the water and on.
Yeah, and to add to that, we are developing indoor rowing courses, including one that's athlete focused.
Mhm.
But a lot of that course is more about assessing mobility and things like that to make sure that your body's ready to get in the positions that you need to get into to erg successfully. So look for that probably in December. The athlete version will be free. And so you can take a look at that, but absolutely the primary resource should be your coach.
I have one quick wrap, because I know we're out of time, wrap up statement, which is when we think about college and grades and coaches and everything else, this is a balance. This is a young person who should be really, when we say the joy of the sport, it is a balance. You want your child to succeed, but we want to also have them enjoy, like Emily said, the love of the sport and the doing of it. So it's important to keep those all in mind, I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. So please be in touch with us. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We hope that this is the start of us being able to provide more support to you, and good luck this season. And we hope to see you soon.